Have you been thinking about getting a laser for your craft room or your small business, but you just don't want to spend the amount of money that it takes to get one of those large lasers? If that's you, stay tuned. I've been using this new laser by WeCreat for about a week now, and in today's video, I'm going to give you an overview of what I've experienced. This is the new WeCreat Vista laser. It is a 10-watt diode laser with an optional 2-watt infrared laser head as well. It is a compact laser, but there's plenty of room in here to do a lot of projects. Now, there's a few things about this laser that I've actually really loved. First of all, the software that you use, which is called WeCreat Make It, is very user-friendly. Second of all, this machine comes with a built-in camera. That is very important to me when I'm using a laser. I highly prefer a laser with a camera. What that does is it allows you to see through your camera screen the material on the base of the laser, and that helps you know where to place your design. Third thing is Air Assist comes standard with this. If you're not familiar with Air Assist, it is something that helps what you're cutting come out really clean. You don't have nearly the amount of singe marks on top of your material when you use Air Assist. Now, there's a few optional things as well. If you're interested in making tumblers, there's a rotary attachment that you can get for this. If you're interested in engraving on really thick things, maybe a really thick cutting board, something that is too tall to fit under the laser head, you can get some little risers for this as well. And then the third thing is, if you want to engrave on really long materials, longer than what the machine is deep, you can get an optional pass-through feeder. Now, maybe you've already bought this, but you haven't even taken it out of the box. Or you're thinking about buying it, but you're a little intimidated on the setup process. If that is you, you can check out a video also linked in the video description where I set this up and used it for the first time. If you're thinking about getting a laser, be sure and do your research so you understand what types of materials each of the various lasers can process. Now let's go ahead and jump into the overview. I want to show you the projects that I worked on.
As soon as I got the WeCreat Vista machine, I did a few test cuts and I was ready to get started on my first project. Now the first project that I'm going to make is a sign for a baby's bedroom. So it has the baby's name and the baby's birth stats. I'm going to use this piece of oak wood, and you can see that I did a test cut in that bottom right corner just so that I would make sure I used the right settings and not waste materials. The software that the WeCreat Vista uses is called WeCreat Make It. I love this software. It's very easy. But if you prefer to use Lightburn, they say that this laser is fully compatible with Lightburn. As for me, I'm going to stay with the WeCreat Make It software. Using the software, I imported a design that I made. Now this design has a few parts. The brown part, the big E, that is going to be cut out of the oak. The orange everleigh that you see on the E, that is going to be a score mark so that you can see where to put the everleigh that goes on top. And then the two circles that you see on the top will be cut out. That way I can put some ribbon through it to hang it. What you see me doing now is picking my material. I'm going to pick wood, and it's going to be 3 millimeter thick. That lets the WeCreat know what settings it should use. With the E selected, I'm going to let the Vista know I want to cut it, and that has a power setting of 100 and a speed of 3. Then I'm going to select everleigh. I'll go right back over here and let it know that I just want to put a line around the outside. That's called line engrave. And then finally, these two circles that you see, those are going to be cut as well. So I go right back over and select cut again. Now the little words in black, those are the birth stats. For now, we're going to set this to ignore those. We're also going to set it to ignore the everleigh that you see in turquoise. I'll cut that in a few minutes. Now I want to go over here and hit the refresh button. What that's going to do is activate the camera that's on that lid. Now that it's activated, you can see the wood in my machine and you can see where the design is. I'm moving it over so that I don't waste all that material. Now that my design's ready, I can go ahead and click on Start. Once I click on Start, here's what you see. I'm going to choose to frame it. What framing means is your laser puts a little beam around what is on your laser bed just to make sure your material is in the right place. I like the placement of it, so I went ahead and closed the lid, and now I can say send. Now the software reminds me, make sure your lid is down, and when it is, go ahead and press that start button on the front. While the laser was doing the cutting and the engraving, my software showed me how the job was progressing. Now, after the job is complete, you have the option of reprocessing it if it didn't cut all the way through. In my case, I thought it did, so I said complete. So let's go ahead, open the lid, and lift this C out and see how well it did. Now this cut beautifully and so clean. There is an air assist that comes with this machine. I think that air assist makes all the difference in the world. There you can also see where Everly was scored. That is really going to help me later to place the Everly that goes on the top. And speaking of Everly, now it's time to move on to the next part of the project. I'm going to cut Everly out of this beautifully pre-coated wood. Now you can see that I also did a test cut on this to make sure the settings would be correct. I am really a huge proponent of doing those test cuts. Now that we're done with this part of the project, I'm going to tell the WeCreat to ignore the E. I'm going to tell the WeCreat to ignore the scored part of Everly, and I'm going to tell the WeCreat to ignore those two circles. Now I could have grouped them before I did that, but I didn't think about it, so I grouped them afterwards. I moved them out of the way, and then I moved the name Everly over onto the canvas to work with it. Once Everly was over on the canvas, I went ahead and hit that refresh button to activate the camera again. Here you can see my material, and you can see the name Everly. Now right now that is set to engrave. I want to change that to cut. At this time, I'm just moving it around on the canvas to try to waste as little material as possible. Now that I'm ready to send this to the laser, I click on the word Start. Once I do that, I have the option to frame it. I really like to use the framing process. That way you make sure that you're not going to cut in the wrong place, and again, you're not going to waste material that way. Since I like how it framed out, I go ahead and click Start. Once again, the software tells me to make sure the lid is closed, and then I can press that Start button on the front of the machine. So I close the lid and I press that button. And just like I showed you before, while the machine is cutting, I can watch the progress through the software on the computer. I thought it looked like a good cut, so I didn't tell it to reprocess. I went ahead and said it was complete. Let's check it out. Now it may look like this didn't cut all the way through, but it really did. Everly is just kind of wedged in there. You can see now this cut beautifully. I am in awe of how well this air assist makes things turn out. It is such a clean cut, and even the white parts of that coating, they are still white. This is a beautiful, beautiful cut. Let me give you a little sneak peek of how this is going to go together. I think this is going to be super cute, but I'm not done yet. I still want to engrave the birth stats on top of this dog tag. I think this bright pink dog tag is going to look so good with the materials that I'm using. In the software, and I'm done showing you the software for now because if I showed you every step along the way, this video would be super long. But in the software, I activated the camera, I moved the birth stats over on top of where the dog tag is, I made sure it was the right size, and then I framed it out. Once I was happy with that, I was ready to go ahead and engrave this. After it finished engraving, I cleaned it with a little bit of 90% rubbing alcohol, and look at how cute this is. Now, this picture does not do it justice. This turned out really, really nice. One of the optional accessories that you can purchase for your WeCreat lasers is a 2-watt infrared laser. Now, I wanted to see how this worked, and I also really wanted to see how hard it was to swap out the 10-watt blue diode laser for this 2-watt infrared laser. It really wasn't too hard at all. You had to take out some screws, disconnect a cord, flip the module down, take those grates out, and then basically you put the infrared laser on the laser bed and you did the same steps but in reverse. Now once these lasers come out, I am happy to do a video to show this whole process, but for now I'm just speeding through it. Now, I didn't mention that before you change that out, you turn the power off. So I was curious when I turned the power back on, would it recognize the 2-watt laser? And it did. I didn't have to push any buttons whatsoever. After changing the laser head, I decided just to play with some materials. So I started with a metal business card. It's a coated metal business card. I typed in the word Abby, and after framing it a couple of times, I was ready to see what this IR laser could do. Now, I wasn't really thrilled with the first engrave, so I went ahead and stopped it in the middle of the job. I slowed it down a little bit because I wanted a deeper engrave, then I started it back up. Now, I always clean things off with alcohol. I didn't want to get any alcohol in the laser, so I just pulled it off camera for a second. But you're seeing everything right here in front of you. The engrave turned out really nice. Now, I already did one of these dog tags, but I wanted to see what the difference was with the IR laser. So this is the same type of dog tag that I used for the stats for Everly. I just stuck with the word Abby, I framed it, and then I went ahead and sent it to the laser. If you need to engrave a design on several of the same things, such as engraving 10 hat patches at the same time, the WeCreat software lets you do this efficiently. You place the 10 patches on the laser bed, and then you use a feature called Smart Fill to add your design to each of the patches. I didn't use the feature in this video, but I plan to try it out soon. Right now, you might be thinking, that looks pretty bad, and it does, but what you see is just dust from the engraving process. Once I clean it up with some 90% rubbing alcohol, it looks really good. The IR laser is used mainly for metals and plastic. Well, I wanted to see how this machine would work on slate. So I ended up taking the 2-watt IR laser out, and I put that 10-watt diode laser back in. These slate coasters have little rubber feet on the bottom, so they don't sit real flat on the laser bed. To help fix the problem, I put a piece of wood under this coaster. Now this time, instead of knowing the exact thickness or height of my material, I'm going to use the auto measure feature in this laser. For that reason, I put the slate directly under that red dot. When you use that auto measure feature, the light of the laser goes off. The laser measures the height of your material, and then the light comes back on. I have my design all set up, so I send this to process. Of course, you know I'm going to frame this before I do. Let's go ahead and open the lid and see how this turned out. Now, the camera makes it where there is a glare on it. This really turned out so much better than what it looks like on here. There is a little dust on it, so I'm going to clean it with some rubbing alcohol. And that left some paper towel on it. Let me go ahead and try to wipe that off. Then I'm going to let it dry for just a few seconds. Now that it's dry, take a look at it. It really looks great. Let's talk about the things that I made in the video, and let's start with the main project. In the Vista, I cut the E out of some oak. I cut Everly out of some coated wood. And then I engraved the birth stats on this dog tag. I put it all together and I couldn't be happier. Look how adorable that is. Since I just got the Vista, I wanted to try some other things. And so the thing that you saw toward the end of the video was the coaster. Now in that part of the video, this coaster looked really washed out. You can see it better here. The coaster is a super dark gray, almost black. In the video, it looked very bright. I think that's a great result. Also in the video, I used the infrared laser. Now, I didn't take a lot of time to make sure that the design was centered or anything like that. I simply wanted to try out the infrared laser. So there's that on a dog tag. And then here's the word Abby on a metal business card. That was also done with the infrared laser. Then I went back and kind of played with it. I also engraved this out of those same business cards. It shows up better because the card is black. But this was with the regular blue light diode laser. And you can see I used a power of 100 and a speed of 50. Now I think I could speed it up because that did an excellent job. And you do have to worry on these really thin cards about it getting overheated because you can warp those cards. Now here's some things I loved about the Vista. First of all, it's a small footprint. The software is very easy to use. And I actually like how the camera functions. I've never used a camera that was in the front part of the lid. It did a very nice job. I definitely prefer a laser with a camera, and so I was super thrilled that the camera was in it. Also, don't forget, that air assist is amazing. After using an air assist in both of the WeCreat lasers that I have, I don't know that I would go back to using a laser without it. Also, if you're a big Lightburn fan, which I'm not, but I know a lot of people are, if you are, this machine works with Lightburn. Now, one thing we didn't get into is the rotary tool. I'm going to do that on an upcoming video, so stay tuned for that. Now, this isn't quite on the market yet, but WeCreat is in the pre-sale process. And the really exciting part is that between September 18th and October 14th, if you put down $20, then you're going to get their special pre-sale price when it launches. And they say that if you decide not to go through with the purchase, your deposit is fully refundable after October 22nd. Now, I am going to put more information in the video description, so if you're in the market for a 10-watt diode laser that functions like this, check out the video description. Also, stay tuned to my channel because I'm going to be doing more videos with this laser. Thanks so much for joining me, and until my next video, bye-bye.